one of the most valuable exercises, Frank, that I got from my training with you years ago was the one where, is that a behavior? Can you see it? I think that was on day 2 of the training. Was a real eye opener to me.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well, no, Andy, let me just comment on this thing. You know, Danny, yeah, see, always we're on the safest ground, the more clear, concise, observable the action items are. I also, though, will say in the case of someone who has a reputation of sarcasm, that there's nothing wrong with having that as a clear objective. And again, as Andy mentioned, this is stopping something as opposed to doing something. And for a lot of people, it's the actual stopping behavior is truly the golden, the holy grail of things. The thing, let me tell you the value, the potential upside of having a statement like that in someone's action plan. If a stakeholder is now been deputized, that anytime you hear me say anything sarcastic, it is your responsibility to tell me, right? And it is a subjective thing. What happens is if someone doesn't let the leader know that they were being sarcastic, here's what goes on in the mind of the stakeholder. Well, either I have no guts, and I'm a weak person, or maybe that wasn't that sarcastic. Which of those two choices do you think they start picking? They start picking, oh, maybe that wasn't so bad, The other people complaining.
Right.
But the reality is under the best of circumstances, they point it out to the leader. Now, again, then our job with the leader is, what do you do if someone says what you said was sarcastic? What should the leader do next? And I want you to answer the question. What should the leader do next?
So I think ideally so either recognize what it was that was sarcastic and not do that anymore. That's one piece of work, or inquire into the stakeholder into what did you hear from me?
Exactly.
I best understand what sarcasm means to you.
Exactly. And just that conversation, will that start to help change the whole dynamic?
Right? Huge. Talk about humility, courage.
Right.
Yeah.
So Frank, I'm struggling with this, and I'll tell you why. And maybe this is just intellectual gobbledygook. You're asking them to stop a behavior. I don't want to be sarcastic anymore. So if you have to stop a behavior, what are you going to do instead?
Yeah.
Do I just need to shut my mouth and count to 10? So,
well, you know what? That sounds kind of like what you do with children, but would that be better than making the sarcastic comment?
Sure
it would. And yeah, the thing is remember, people are hardwired around their behavior. So someone who's sarcastic has been well schooled in the fine art of sarcasm, and it's their path of least resistance. It's like water following the path is going to take downhill. And so to change that, by the way, you can change it 2 ways. You can change it by simply cutting off that path in the brain, which means all you do is shut up. Remember Marshall, I remember hearing Marshall before he ever wrote it up, and I think he wrote it in Triggers. He came up with this idea of asking a leader for a week to keep track of how many times before they open their mouth, they ask us the question, is this worth saying? And the very first time he did it, he got a statistic at the end of the week from the leader. He did it a second time, got the same answer. He literally gets the same answer for about everyone he's ever done this with. 50% of what I was going to say wasn't worth saying. So by the way, is it worth saying this sarcastic comment to person? So maybe all the person has to do is, before they do or say it, ask the question, is this worth saying? Right? And that's a replacement behavior. It takes place inside their head. No one else sees it. Right? But I tell you, you think people don't see the absence of behavior? Andy, you see Frank Wagner as a sarcastic SOB, and then all of a sudden for 4 months you wake up one night and you say, I haven't seen Frank be sarcastic in 4 months. You'll actually notice.
Okay, point well taken. I always am learning from Frank. I always get these nuggets of gold every time we talk.